Chapter 4. Primary Justice. The Isles of Western Centrath held a peculiar influence over the coastal regions of what would, much later, be called Southern Europe and Northern Africa. Estolia, in particular, had a disproportionate influence, as it was the center of the lucrative market in human slavery. Territorial disputes and sporadic military reprisals against the slave traders served to obliterate their records. Even the name of the island, Estolia, is highly disputed. Cortano, one of the earliest and most infamous slave traders, believed there must be a deity overseeing the affairs of men and, if they did not tender appropriate obeisance, one risked their immortal soul. As he did not know which of the 7 dominant faiths was the correct one, he decreed that all 7 of the deities of Centrath should be worshipped equally. This belief spread throughout all of the settlements whose existence was tied to what we now call the Mediterranean Sea. Only the rise of Christianity usurped the power of this belief. Meredith Zakarian, History of Estolia. Corella was just joining her mother to help with the midday meal when she felt a gush of warmth rush down her legs. Her baby was ready to be born. "Your father will get the truth from you now," her mother told her. She pushed aside the bowl of food she had started to prepare and squared her shoulders. The words of the divinatra kept Corella company these past months. It was time to reveal her secret. She could hear a heavy tread behind her but did not turn. Her voice was heavy with resignation when she admitted to her mother, "The baby's father is Sebastian." Her father demanded, "What transpires?" "Our meal will be delayed, my husband. Your daughter is ready to give birth, and has named Sebastian as the father of her child." Corella could not interpret her father's mood when he said, "I have asked the Judex Primaria to come with me, to bring him back once his name was revealed. I shall not be gone long." Before she could think about the significance of her father's statement, she was distracted by the force of the pain writhing through her system. Her mother took over, and Corella tried to find comfort in the knowledge that she would see Sebastian before the day was done. Sebastian found himself a job, working in Palmyra at the dock. His attraction to women was gone like the tide. Each morning he promised himself he would be true to Corella, and each night he prayed to the 7 deities, grateful for his success, hopeful that he might someday earn her forgiveness. He was standing on the pier looking out over the water, waiting for a ship that was delivering livestock from Menos. The tread of multiple booted feet on the wooden pier caught his attention. He looked towards the shore. There were 5 men walking towards him. Jerome, his employer, was leading Groban, 2 of his brothers, and a man unfamiliar to Sebastian. "Sebastian, this is Alton, Judex Primaria de Palmyra," Jerome introduced the stranger to him. He gestured to Corella's father and added, "Groban has laid prior claim to your future. You must go with him." Judex Primaria? The primary justice. Was he to be executed for his crimes against Corella? He inclined his head. He would go with these men, even if it was to his death. It would scarcely begin to pay his debt to Corella. A cart waited for them at the end of the pier. He sat between Corella's uncles, watching the road to her home pass in a daze. He had one hope rushing through his system. Perhaps he would see her again? Every night he had prayed to the 7 deities that he might be given one glimpse of her beautiful face. It was all he could expect to get out of life. He was unlikely to receive forgiveness or her love here in this world. Groban's rigid posture as they continued in silence began to eat away at him. Had something happened to Corella? Fear began to twist through his gut, and he imagined increasingly awful possibilities as they traveled. The only thing that calmed his irrational fears was how unlikely it would be that Groban would fetch him, with the Judex Primaria, in any of the scenarios he could imagine. As the cart entered her father's lands, he felt the unbearable yearning to be with Corella again. He thought of the poem he composed during his long walk away from her. Since then, he did not let a single day go by without saying it during his morning ablutions. At her father's home, the 4 men accompanied him to Corella's bedchambers. What he saw struck fear in his heart. She held an infant to her breast, but she was almost pure white. Blood soaked the rushes beneath her and coated her thighs. "Go to her," Groban commanded him in his ear. Swiftly, he went to her side, his focus on her more than the babe. "He is your son, Sebastian." "I named him Corleone," she whispered. "After you. After us." The last word trailed off in a hiss, and he knew, instinctively, that she was gone. He closed his eyes on the pain of being granted his wish, seeing her one last time, only to have her die within his arms. A harsh hand on his upper arm dragged him from the room, out to the blacksmith annex. Sebastian was too numb to object. Groban's voice trembled with anguish. "She named you as father and is now dead. Your seed killed my daughter. You deserve to die." Judix Alton stopped him, saying, "Nay, this is not an equitable penalty." Sebastian felt dispassionate, uncaring as the two men dickered over whether he should be put to death or whipped. One of Corella's uncles suggested, "The 7 deities demand that they be arbiters of any transgressor. If we usurp their role, we risk our souls. They must decide Sebastian's final fate." He looked at Sebastian and said, "The punishment must not be to the death, but we must eliminate his ability to visit this same misfortune on others. If we castrate him, he will ever after remember all that he has lost in this his life. If death is the punishment decreed by the 7 deities, they will deliver it to him. And if he lives, he will serve our family until his death."